Welcome, everyone, to the Elastic Agent Builder livestream. My name is George James Kobar III, and I am honored to be your host. And over the next hour, we'll have a lot of exciting things planned for this livestream, including announcements, demos, an interview with Dell, and from our developers. We've also built an agent live with giveaways along the way. So keep an ear out towards the end. We'll wrap up with something you won't want to miss. If you're new here, Elastic is an open source platform built on Elasticsearch that makes data usable in real time. You could build search experiences with keyword, semantic, and hybrid search along with AI, and also deploy turnkey solutions like observability and security, all on the same stack. That means one place to ingest, store, analyze, query, and visualize your data. It's the foundation you need to build agents that actually work with your data. So we're also proud to introduce Elastic Agent Builder, which actually was introduced back in October of 2025. Now in general availability on Elastic Cloud Serverless, it's built for one simple outcome: ship reliable AI agents that effectively use your data in minutes. Most agents fail because they don't have the right context from messy data, and they're too complex to wire together safely. Agent Builder brings context and tools together directly in Elasticsearch, so you could build fast. We're also announcing Elastic Workflows, which delivers the ability for our agents to take action. Elastic Workflows will be available in technical preview very soon. To talk more on the subject of Elastic Agent Builder and Elastic Workflows, I'd love to introduce you to Anish Mathur, the PM lead.
Thanks, George. I'm super excited today to be here to talk about our work on Agent Builder. Just to start, I wanted to provide a little bit of context for why we created Agent Builder in the first place. So I think all of us are pretty familiar with the potential of AI experiences to really transform businesses, transform processes, and create really new, exciting experiences across different domains. But what we found is that in delivering impact through AI, this depends on high quality, relevant access to your data and tools. AI experiences are nothing without the data that power them. So if we can create the right experience to bring the data to the experience, if we can create the right ways to bring data and context to the experience, we can have much more reliable and effective experiences. A core part of that is how do we deliver relevance? And in the world of AI agents, the importance of relevance has never been more. If you think about sort of traditional search applications, there were a list of 10 blue links. A human had to choose between those, pick out which one was most relevant. Now, as we move into the world of RAG, there was the idea of we need one good answer so that we can get the summary, generate the right response, and give it back to the user. Now, in the world of agents, it's an iterative looping process. The agent's going to call retrieval potentially multiple times. And at each stage, relevance is important. If you have poor relevance, you'll get compounding issues, compounding error that creates hallucinations, bad outcomes, poor quality results that are really what prevent agents from becoming production ready and actually have real impact in real environments. So search relevance has never been more important. And that's really where Elastic comes in. The core of this problem is how do you get that relevant data for a business task from wherever it lives today to the AI experiences that you want to deliver? So how do you take the data and integrate it into something like a chat application through Claude or a development application like Cursor? Or how do you create integrations to other custom agents that you're building on any other agentic framework that might be leveraged today? Or how do you build it directly into your own applications so that you can have these kinds of agentic and conversational experiences? How do you bring that context and relevance to those experiences? Today, it's a complex task. You have to bring together a bunch of different components and capabilities. You have to understand how to create the right set of tools, how to manage the right set of prompts, how to register those tools effectively, how to manage the conversational memory in short term and long term, how to do tool selection correctly, how to observe all of that and make sure it's actually working. And most crucially, how do you actually get the relevant data for the task out of your data sources and into these systems effectively? Today, it's typically wiring together a bunch of different tools with custom code and different logic. Oftentimes, some of these pieces are left out, and it makes it very difficult to take an agent from POC to production. With Elastic Agent Builder, we're bringing the power of the Elasticsearch platform together to provide you with a comprehensive data platform for context engineering. Elastic provides all the pieces you need to do this context engineering practice and bring that relevant context to your agents. It provides the data prep and inference, the retrieval and relevance that Elastic has been known for years, combined with the new capabilities around agentic reasoning, logic, and memory that allow you to really create these agents quickly and effectively, and then create a feedback loop of evaluation and improvement so that you can continue to improve your agents over time, understand how they're working, and know that they're actually driving a real impact. In each of these areas, Elastic provides a depth of capabilities across data prep and inference with our first-party embedding models, the ability to integrate other embedding models, connectors to data sources, the ability to have a chunking and parsing of content, complex content. On the retrieval side, the advanced forms of retrieval around vector search, lexical search, hybrid search, and a lot of the new capabilities that we built out over the years for developing really effective retrieval at high relevance. And now with Agent Builder, we're introducing our agentic AI capabilities, the ability to have built-in and custom-built tools, the ability to leverage agentic workflows, choose the right set of tools for your agent, and make them work effectively within the context that you need, and expose all these over the right set of interfaces. And finally, the ability to evaluate and monitor your system, getting the data that you need, getting the outputs that you need, and be able to understand how your agent is actually performing so that you can improve, track, and monitor it over time. All of this is exposed over a simple set of interfaces that make it easy for developers to integrate with. We expose a set of pre-built tools and the ability to customize those tools so you can integrate them into whatever application over things like MCP, integrate them into your MCP clients, or integrate them into other services. We give the ability to compose those tools together with custom instructions to create custom agents. These agents you can then interact with over protocols like A2A or directly through the APIs to integrate them into your systems. And then you can bring these agents the ability to take action using workflows. Workflows is the new capability that allow an agent to take deterministic action across sources, do things like pull additional context from external data sources and bring it together with your data in Elastic, or take some action based on the output of your agents. Workflows and Agent Builder together are extremely powerful, and we're really excited about this new addition to the platform. Workflows give agents the ability to take action. You can integrate workflows as tools within your agent, so you can expose a workflow to an agent and allow it to call out to call a tool that executes this workflow to take some deterministic action, whether that's to gather context or to take some deterministic set of actions based on the results of the agent. Or you can have an agent as a step in a workflow. So you can define your business process in a workflow, and anywhere you need the agent to be able to run its reasoning, analyze the situation, make a recommendation, you can do those within the context of the workflow and have it continue on the path of steps that are needed. This gives you the flexibility to create really powerful automation combined with the adaptive reasoning nature of agents and have a really complete solution for a lot of the tasks that you might want to build with agents today. And you'll see a lot of this as we start to go through some of the example applications and demos that folks have been able to build with Agent Builder today. With all these capabilities, Agent Builder enables a wide range of data-focused use cases. Think about things like technical support resolution to help reduce resolution times, the ability to do marketing campaign analysis over multiple sources of data, the ability to understand and create policies across different domains, leveraging that ability to search and find relevant information, create really interesting product recommendation and discovery experiences across commerce, ensure compliance across different data sources, and leverage things like the ability to understand, identify, and mitigate threats using these agents to perform security investigations, and do things like analyze huge quantities of complex log data to identify root causes and optimizations for applications and solutions. Across all of these, Agent Builder provides the relevance and context that's needed to rapidly take these solutions from POC to production. Now, I'll pass it back to George to show a little bit more of how Agent Builder actually works.
Thanks, Anish. That was great. The big takeaway, reliable agents start with the right context. And Elastic Agent Builder makes it super easy to build reliable agents and Elastic workflows to deliver the action. Now, let's do a quick demo of Elastic Agent Builder. People tend to be unreliable when you need to gather critical information. Even with provided forms, details can get fuzzy, contradictory, or ambiguous. For departments like the Men in Black, gathering credible information has been increasingly difficult. Recently, the number of extra UFO activity has increased, or drone sightings. It's difficult for MIB to weed out the signal amongst the noise. That is why the Men in Black have chosen Elastic to build their virtual agent on Elastic Agent Builder to help gather information on sightings and act on the data when these sightings are credible. So let's take a closer look on how the MIB team built their AI agent. Again, the goal is simple: turn messy, emotional eyewitness stories into a strict, structured report in real time. The AI agent, posed as a police officer, asks short, non-leading questions like, when did it happen? Where were you? What did it look like? How long was the phenomenon for? The AI agent continuously calls the MIB report to update a live JSON object. Every field stays present, even if the answer is still unknown to the eyewitness, so the report never breaks and never drifts. It's not just data entry. The agent is trained to spot contradictions, uncertainty, and missing basics. What the witness doesn't know is the AI agent is really an MIB operative. The moment the eyewitness gives a mention of a specific place, time, or distance detail like shape, color, or behavior, it automatically checks the past cases stored within Elasticsearch with the MIB search UFO sightings to see if it matches prior patterns. It also assesses the credibility of the witness using a 0 to a 5 scoring system. And if the score reaches a 4 to a 5 or credible, the agent will also call the MIB neuralizer tool to erase the witness's memory. The MIB team also created custom tools for their AI agent. Agents use tools to search, retrieve, and analyze your data. Tools are modular and reusable in Elasticsearch operations. You could create one yourself or use our tools that Elastic has provided. The MIB team has built an online system so eyewitnesses can enter data directly, which you can see on the right-hand side. Oh, looks like someone is about to make a report. Let's look closer. Hello there. I'm Officer Thompson. I understand you'd like to report a UFO sighting? I'd be happy to take your report. Could you tell me when the sighting occurred? Please include the date and approximate time if you remember. I was in Golden, Colorado on January 22nd, 2026. Thank you for that information. Interestingly, we've had a few reports from Colorado area over the years, though nothing specifically from Golden this month. Could you describe what you saw? What did the object look like? Its shape, color, or distinctive features? It was a large flash of light followed by an intense heat. It was 9 p.m. at night. After the light disappeared, I saw a sphere. It was silver and glowing. Thank you for sharing those details. That's quite interesting. We've had several reports of silver, spherical objects in Colorado over the years. How long did you observe the silver, glowing sphere? And could you estimate how far it was from you or how large it appeared? It hovered above the ground like a mile up for 15 minutes. The sphere looked like the size of a large truck. Thank you for providing those specific details. A hovering object at that altitude for 15 minutes is quite significant. The size comparison to a large truck helps us understand the scale better. I've documented all the information you've provided. Your report has been assigned to case number GC 2026-0122. But before we conclude, I just need to take your picture for a few records. Could you please look at this metal device now? Thank you for coming in today. This was just a routine weather balloon report. You were walking home and noticed as usual cloud formation that caught your attention due to how the setting of the sun was reflecting off of it, and there was nothing unusual about it, and you decided it wasn't worth reporting at all. You're free to go about your day. Be sure to drive safely. By the way, I'm wondering if the MIB is tracking the health effects of being neuralized. I'm sure some folks have gotten neuralized multiple times. Poor Patty keeps having close encounters of the third kind, and they keep neuralizing her. Maybe they should start tracking this data. They could create a workflow that ingests that data into Elasticsearch every time the neuralize is used. You could use an HTTP or webhook for additional actions. So many different possibilities. And that's the fun part of this UFO demo. It's goofy on the surface, but it's showing a very real pattern of agents plus workflows, messy conversations into structured outcomes. Imagine this isn't a UFO report. It's a sales intake form, or a support escalation, or a renewal risk signal, or a partner request. The agent handles the conversation, asks the right questions, and writes clean, consistent data every time. Then the workflow takes over and routes it, enriches it, triggers the actions, and logs the result. And the real win is what happens after the interaction, because it's all structured. You can actually measure the outcome. How many sales did or came from this form? How many support calls did we prevent because they responded faster? How many escalations did we avoid because the workflow kicked in immediately? And how many remediations from an observability standpoint, if let's say we uploaded our own books, are we able to complete? That's why we treat these actions like first-class data. The neuralizer index in the demo is a stand-in for any operational index, a living record of wins, losses, completions, drop-offs, and interventions, so you can analyze what worked and what didn't, and where to optimize next. So yes, it's UFOs, but in practice, this is how you build systems quickly that don't just chat, they action. You'll see a lot more examples of this later in the live stream. I hope everyone enjoyed the demo and had a little fun. Up next, we're going to hear from several people on their thoughts on Elastic Agent Builder. Everyone's talking about RAG, GenAI, and agents, but the reality is shipping to production is difficult. Let's talk about what's working, what's hard, and what customers can build. And today we have Vrashank Jain joining us. Vrashank, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, George. I lead product management here for AI data platform at Dell Technologies. It's lovely to be here.
So let me go ahead and start asking some questions to you. So we've seen technologies in multiple waves before. We're talking about virtualization, cloud, containerization, for big data, and now really around AI. So what's different about the agent wave, and why is it happening now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, in the shortest answer is really agents just aren't a new interface. It's sort of the new execution model. So it's a different way to think. In the past, the waves that you've mentioned, virtualization, cloud, containers, I think we've focused on how those applications run. With agents, I think we're now changing the mentality and we're asking the question of who does the work. And agents can reason over context. They can decide what to do next. They can take action. And that's really, I think, the biggest difference between this wave and the other ones. And you asked why now? I think there are a few things that have sort of come together that have made this the right moment. The first thing is I think the models have now crossed a threshold, right? Just in the last 2 or 3 years, I think LLMs are now getting so good at reasoning and tool use that agents are now becoming a reality. The second big wave, I think that's also come alongside the LLMs, is that the data is now much more accessible with search and vectors and metadata. APIs are everywhere now. This is not a question that people ask. It's table stakes. And I also think at this point, generally speaking, macro, there's operational pressure. So teams are overloaded, and agents are promising that leverage, not just that insight. So in my view, this is like the first wave where I think software starts to act less like a static application and much more like a operator, just like you and me.
So what excites you the most about Elastic Agent Builder?
Yeah, look, I've been trying to keep up with all the announcements and all the news that you guys are releasing. I, at the core of it, I think it solves that same problem we just talked about, which is I don't trust my AI, right? It helps you eliminate hallucinations because it's grounded in retrieval. Like I like the fact that this is built on top of a data repository rather than a model repository because models will come and go. I think once you ground yourself on that data, I think you'll have a better shot at getting that app into production. Um, it's it's not a black box, which is also really good. It's traceable, which means you kind of know how the agent is actually working its way through the answer, and it gives you ample opportunities to go and actually figure out and diagnose. It's not a static thing, meaning it's adaptive, it's contextual, and it's not just a read-only bot, which I think we've seen a lot with the initial implementation of MCP, where a lot of MCP endpoints are really just a front end to what the app originally did anyway. Um, and it's actually agent that actually do things, call tools, get the right answer, and think about it. Those are the kinds of things that I think is like really exciting to me because it's a tight loop between actions and retrieval and reasoning of the model itself. It's been really hard, I think, for people to solve easily, and I think bringing this type of an agent builder, I think, democratizes it really for a lot of people who may not be as savvy as the smartest people in the world who are doing this.
Yeah, it definitely lowers the bar to entry for a lot of folks getting into this space. So you don't have to be a developer to really leverage this technology, which is I really appreciate. And one thing too that you mentioned that resonated with me is grounding of the data is really important, but I think a lot of organizations their data is their goal. It differentiates themselves from their competitors. And that data itself, yeah, you want to keep within your systems, within your own platform, and I think having that data available can give a competitive advantage. It's not something you want to give away and send to a large language model. So having that data also be a differentiator, I think, is absolutely huge.
I would just like to take maybe a minute or two to talk about what the Dell AI data platform really is and how is Elastic and Elastic Agent Builder integrated into it. So what you're seeing in the center of your slide really is the Dell AI data platform, and it's at a very high level. Think of it as a combination of best of breed data engines, such as the analytics engine, the search engine, of course, which is powered by Elasticsearch, but and also a processing engine. And it's coupled with storage engines, which are PowerScale or ObjectScale. These are market-leading S3 or NFS storage devices, but it's
Mm.
also connected to customer data, which might be all over the place. And that Elastic Agent Builder is really sort of sits right in the middle between the data that's stored in storage and the Elasticsearch engine itself, which is what's holding the vector database or the metadata database. And for end customers who are in an AI factory, for example, or they're in application build out, what they're looking for is a very easy way to interact with your data, and not reinvent the wheel. Meaning, every app developer should not really know how to build a vector database index all the way from scratch. They should be focused on what they're really good at, which is understanding the business problem. So I think what this platform helps you do is provide agents as the way to interact with your data using hybrid search. And this whole platform provides Elasticsearch, the compute infrastructure, and in fact, soon it'll also include GPU acceleration for certain very, very large data sets that you're trying to index. So when you combine the the Elasticsearch software, the agent builder, the infrastructure underneath, and the turnkey experience that we're providing to our end customers, those customers, especially those on-prem, are going to benefit from a much easier experience to get this onboarded and just faster time to value. So I hope that gave you just a small snippet of what the data platform is. And you asked about what use cases this can solve. At a very high level, I can come up with maybe three or four of them. One is the most obvious one, which is, can we do enterprise search? Can we start searching on all the data sets that we have inside our company? Policy documents, engineering documents, tickets, contracts. That's like the most basic, I think, bit of a low-hanging fruit. But then if you take it one step further, you can start to use that to build a bit of an ops assistant, right? You don't just want to find the contract. You actually want to find a problem with it and triage it and, maybe raise a ticket. That's where the agent really comes in. You could take it into security and compliance, where you might start to do threat investigation or audit support. And then, if you're a knowledge worker like me, you really just want a lot of co-pilots. And so
Yeah.
having an assistant that can summarize a support ticket and find out what exactly is going on with a support problem can be so immensely helpful. Those are all, I would say, usually high friction problems that can get solved fairly easily with this.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And having that platform, the Dell AI data platform itself, there's a lot of these, components and pieces you don't really have to stitch together. You have it all in one place, which I think is very valuable just for the speed of innovation, or speed of go to market. One thing, I don't want to put you on the spot because we just announced the Elastic workflow. So workflows which really deliver the ability for your agents to take action. So based on that announcement, how do you see taking actions based off of agents beneficial to you and to the customers?
Yeah, I think taking action is sort of the the difference between, I think, a good POC and actually a really good production application. So being able to say, all right, I have not just found the data here, but I can actually take you to the next step of actually doing something about it. So for example, if you were doing predictive maintenance and you're on a factory floor, you don't just want to find out if a part is going end of life. You actually want to find out, what am I supposed to do about it? Should I go and replace it? Do I need to buy a new one? Or do I call someone? And if I need to buy a new one, is it in inventory? Can I go and order it? Being able to take actions and actually stitch together a workflow, not just retrieve the data and hope that the customer knows what to do with it, is, I think, going to be the big difference between just having an application and actually having it help you do something better. So in my view, I think workflow is a perfect next step for Elastic, building on top of this foundation that you built here.
Thanks, Prashank. This was a great conversation, and I really look forward to how Dell and Elastic will work together to provide, these next generation AI applications using Elastic Agent Builder.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, George. I think just the last thing I'll say is that the teams that are going to win aren't the ones with the biggest models. They're the ones that build the most trustworthy, grounded applications.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for Shank. We really appreciate the perspective and the partnership. So we're going to change up for the next segment. We're going to share a few highlights from an internal Elastic hackathon we ran with Agent Builder. It was easy for us to decide because the submissions were genuinely impressive, and they provided the point that we've been trying to make, which is when you lower complexity, people actually build. So a few things stood out. One, the volume. We got a huge number of submissions, and it wasn't because people had weeks of time. It was because Agent Builder made it easy to get from the idea to working agent fast. Two, the quality. These weren't hello world demos. People were building real practical agents, multi-step automations, investigations, and workflows that feel production ready, built in their spare time. So you're going to see that in just a second. Three, who showed up? It wasn't just the usual most technical folks. We saw a broader mix of builders than we normally do, which is exactly what we want. More people being able to ship reliable agents and not just talk about them. We received many different submissions, which really showed us that Agent Builder was easy to build, something useful and fast. Many of the agent outcomes resulted in better context, better decisions, and safe actions with Elastic workflows. So you're about to see a few short spotlights. As you watch, think about your own environment. What's a repetitive task or investigation or workflow you love to automate with an agent with control? And now joining us is Amanda Saavedra and Jeff Vestal. How are you both doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing, George?
Doing great. How you doing?
Pretty good. Would you like to both of you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'll go first. My name is Amanda Saavedra. I'm Value Operations here at Elastic. I've been here about 2 years now. Also the Chief of Staff for Nick Drost, our Global Vice President of Solutions Architecture and Customer Architecture Field Engineering. I'm excited to be here with you guys today.
I'm Jeff Vestal. I'm a Principal Customer Enterprise Specialist. I've been here about 6.5 years. Happy to be here and talk about stuff.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I was told that you built something with Elastic Agent Builder. And I wanted to start off by asking, what was the problem you wanted to solve, and what did you build?
So, right, we built what we call Louise's E.A.R.S. It's a Bob's Burgers fan ears. Stands for Event Anomaly Response System. So we both talk a lot about with field personnel who work in the observability space, and being able to triage large, complex environments is a challenge and something that people use Elastic for all the time. But even all the data we collect, it's still a lot to manage and process. And so being able to finally bring a lot of this agentic workflow into the stack really makes the role of SREs potentially easier. It's still a hard job, but we'll take a little bit of the kind of low-lying fruit off the tree, so to speak.
I think from a value standpoint, I come not the technical lens. I'm definitely the storyteller value lens of this. But when it comes to the value for our customers, we work with a lot of observability customers where alert fatigue and just information overload and slow incident response is ultimately what really comes down to. And especially without talking about E-Trade and trading, like seconds matter. So ultimately, when it comes to problems that a lot of our customers are solving, that's where the inspiration came from.
Well, great. Can you show us the agent that you built?
Sure. So it's a microservice environment. The lines you'll see they move just for the heck of it, really. And then agent activity really was more to showcase as part of the hackathon itself, like what's happening versus like anything you would normally do. So what happens is, something's a triggered incident. You get this is where we talked about the human, move the mouse, intervention. So like you might have seen it real quick, the box turned red, indicating that something was wrong with that service, right? And then behind the scenes, what triggered it was a anomaly detection job that runs in Elastic. So it's unsupervised anomaly detection job. There's a script running in a VM somewhere that I trigger, and it would fire and throw an anomalous data. But it's all stuff we do in the real world, where the anomaly detection job says, oh, this is an unusual pattern for this service at this time of day, fires an alert or writes an anomaly detection job, and then there's an alert that fires. And in this case, that alert triggered a workflow, which then called the agent. So here's where a bunch of things happen behind the scenes to collect information and kind of say like, yeah, okay, so this unusual anomaly score of 95 out of 100, so pretty unusual. It tells about the issue type, right? There's a notification spike. The recommended action is we're going to switch to the backup provider, and it has a little bit more information. And right, like the idea is you give enough information to the operator, the human, to decide, should we do this or not? Can we trust what it is? This is pretty, in this case, a low risk. I mean, it's SMS. So we're going to approve it, and it runs through, and then it, remediates the incident. So it makes an API call, which flips to something. And then this is where it's saying, right, like, great. So we did this one time. The human went through for an individual incident. Do we trust this kind of spike? Again, this is up to individuals and companies. For the hackathon, of course, I'm going to hit yes, because I don't ever want to look up again. But this is where that control comes in. And so in the back end, we used workflows, we used Agent Builder. They tie in together really nicely together. And basically this is, again, it's the VHS copy of this. But really, the only reason I'm even showing this part of it is that those API calls, because everything's API driven, you can use the agent builder within the stack in Kibana, which is a really nice interface, and it's always we're continuing to improve it in things, or you can call it programmatically and have your own whatever custom system you have running in your company. But we're still ultimately calling agent builder, and that's what this is saying here. Again, it's showing the thinking, it's showing how it's checking the service health, it's reviewing key metrics, it's investigating if there are any recent changes from the logs, looking for other service issues. So all the things you do in Elastic, but it's all automated. And then that's how ultimately we got to it getting fixed. So yeah, that's the super short version.
So I want to say thank you so much, Amanda and Jeff, for showing us what you built.
Sure.
This is really, not only is it amazing because you're chatting with your data, but you're also acting on your data and with some remediation and also some steps along the way, like what Amanda said earlier, the human element on how the human comes in and interacts with this data. So, but again, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Hey, so I'm speaking with Olivia. Hi, Olivia.
Hi, George. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Olivia. I'm a program manager on the developer relations team here at Elastic.
Perfect. And I heard that you've built something with Elastic Agent Builder.
I did. So I got a little creative. We had an internal hackathon, and I decided to do a baby sleep consultant agent to track and reason with baby data and provide helpful information for parents. That was kind of the fun idea behind it.
Perfect. Is that something you could show us right now?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I shared my screen. So just real quick, let me just dive into my agent and something like the back end before I ask a question. I named my sleep consultant Miss Doubtfire. I wanted her to have like a very like grandmotherly persona. I wanted, I just kept thinking of a parent doom scrolling in the middle of the night, like, why isn't my baby sleeping? And so I wanted my agent to have like a calming presence, very, gentle and without giving like super rigid advice. So I kind of went a little overboard with all my instructions, but I thought that's what was so fun about the agent builder. I didn't need to know code to give my agent a personality. So I have some phrases I want my agent to use. I've spelled out the different data sources they have access to and so forth, as well as the custom tools that they have as well. Also, quick little like display name, all that. And then for tools, obviously we have access to the tools already provided in Agent Builder, and then you can create custom tools as well, which I did for a few. I have like a sleep regression tool, room temp, and so forth. Honestly, I will say, just as like a little fun fact, the AI assistant was really helpful in this because I haven't had experience writing ESQL queries before. And so using documentation, the AI assistant was really helpful in debugging, figuring out what was working, what wasn't. So I made a few tools. I made one for sleep regression, room temps, short naps, month recaps. And this just helps the agent kind of dig through your data a little quicker and, pull on the relevant details to answer the question that the agent's getting asked.
So Olivia, and then this is the data that you also ingested into Elasticsearch, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And I will say that is one of the more approachable things to Agent Builder is just how quickly and easily I was able to ingest my data. Yeah, it's synthetic. I was able to iterate on the data. I started very basic, and then as I continued to understand Agent Builder a little bit better, I kind of changed up my data and made it more well-versed, I guess. And so, yeah, I ingested all my data into Elastic, and then from there I was able to kind of create tools and customize it further. You can ask the agent a handful of questions. I really dug into milestones, figuring out like which milestones impacted my baby's sleep the most. If there was, a correlation between room temp and baby sleep, if there's any signs of regressions. For this example, we're just going to dive into, we want the agent to provide me a recap of sleep for August 2025. I did get a response. So my agent, I always tell my agent to start off as like, hello, because that's what Miss Doubtfire always says in the movie. And as you can see, the agent, gave a quick little overview. Your little cutie had a pretty consistent night's sleep throughout August, which is great. It dives into nap patterns, sleep quality. It called out that there were a few sick days in that month as well. And it also said that the walking milestone was noted for the first half of the month, which is exciting, could also lead to some sleep disruptions as well. So yeah, it gives you kind of like a good overview of what's going on in your baby's sleep patterns. And then also in my instructions for my agent, I always say like, would you like to send a personalized recap to the client as an option? So.
Perfect. Well, Olivia, this was such a great Agent Builder demo and example. And again, I really like the idea that you didn't come from a technical background, but I think what you built here is very relatable to at least a lot of people. And if you're not a parent or if you don't have children, I still think you can look at this from what kind of data do I want to have on a day-to-day basis that I want to understand a little bit more, track more data. It could be health or fitness or anything that's within your personal life and of course your business life. But I think it's super relatable, and I think it's also shows you that anyone from any walk of life can easily get started and use Elastic Agent Builder. Olivia, thanks for your time and happy parenting.
Thank you. Thanks, George. It was good talking to you.
Those projects speak for themselves. Real agents, real outcomes built fast. And when you remove the complexity, people actually ship. Oh, one more thing. Jeff and Amanda published their work on GitHub and as a free 1-hour workshop. To get started or learn more, check out these links here or here. You get it. Okay. For the next segment, we're going to do some live coding with Dave Erickson, a distinguished architect here at Elastic. So the reason I asked you here, Dave, is to show viewers the basics of Agent Builder.
All right, so we're talking basics. So we want to do some live coding. George, thanks for having me on.
I'm really excited to see what you build. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm seeing in the chat that people are like, show me the prompts, show me the queries, right? Like, how do I get started? You know, how do I want to play with it now? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit over the shoulder, and I'm going to try and start from something that's really easy to conceptualize. You don't have to understand my data, because I'm betting everybody here has a data set in their personal email that is like pretty close to mine, right? Or has similar concepts in it. So what I'm going to do is I try to find what's a data set that everybody's going to understand right away. So the learning curve isn't about all the joins in my database, but is more about how do I get value out of this data that has both structure and unstructured kind of gold in it. So what I decided to do for kind of a live coding exercise is to ask the question, can I get value out of my email junk folder? This is not simple, right? I've had the same Gmail account since 2004 when it was in beta, right? So there's my whole life is in here. I wish AI knew more about it, but I don't really want to give AI like carte blanche access to everything in my email. That to me is a little too personal, right? So what I did is I took a little glance aside. What are things that I keep asking questions about the history of the last 20 years that I would love AI to just understand and have instant access to, because that data, maybe I can mirror it into Elasticsearch or something. And I want to do it cheaply, and I want to do it in real time, right? So that new data is coming in all the time. So what I did is I figured out a way with some other coworkers here, a real lightweight way of using Google App Script, which is like this free thing that Google gives us in our personal and work accounts, if it's still turned on, to run little cron jobs and run little JavaScripts on all of your Google Workspaces type data. So I looked around and I saw that I've been using the same like travel itinerary program. I think Concur bought it. It's called TripIt. I've been using it for like forever, and it still has like a complete history of everywhere I've ever been that was outside of driving distance for me. Spotify, which I've been a member of for a long time, sends me emails about like spam about concerts that are in my area that I never have time to attend, but I really wish I could. Every time I buy new tokens on OpenAI, because some of my automations are maybe going crazy, I get all the account funding emails, and I weekly I get emails on like what video games from my Steam wish list are on sale. So like they're all time-stamped. They all have like rich text in them that maybe semantic search would make a good demo for. So I wanted to pull all this into Elasticsearch and just play around with it with Agent Builder with everybody here for a little bit, just to kind of show some of the concepts. And maybe that sparks the idea of, hey, what unstructured data do you have that if I could ask a structured and unstructured question on, now I can think about how that integrates with workflows and how I want to agentify the things that I wish AI knew more about. So I go to my personal email. We're going to do screenshots here just for privacy reasons, right? And it's really easy for me to target a search to go find a very specific thing. But to ask a question in aggregate on 10 years of emails, kind of tricky, right? To find a very specific thing, if I don't know the words, very tricky, because this isn't semantic search. This is just keyword search. So I can make a search pretty easy to target a specific part of my email. And then I can turn that into a filter, right? Everybody knows how to kind of add a filter. And I can add a label to that and all the past history of everything that matches that search. And then I can use that label as like a work cue, as like a signal that I need to go do something on that email on a cron. So what I do is, I apply that filter to matching conversations. I apply a label to it, and it goes back and does that for the history of everything in my email. And then I use a little automation script, and we'll put in the chat the automation, kind of the little gist of this automation that I run. And as long as I've got all the keys from my Elasticsearch here, it'll just go take a page of data that matches this label, turn it into JSON, shoot it into Elasticsearch, and then unlabel those emails so that the next 5 or the next 25 or whatever it happens to be is the next time that this fires. So you can run several thousand of these a day. So it just kind of goes back through the backlog and gets all the stuff that I want out of my email. I wouldn't use this to move terabytes of data, but great for a demo, right? So some of the data I found I wanted to pre-process a little bit, right? Where maybe I take a grok pattern the same way that I would a log and say, hey, all the emails from TripIt have like, your trip to San Francisco is starting soon. Well, let me pull out that San Francisco bit because maybe I want to do some aggregations on that. Maybe some of the data I'll post-process and do like live while the agent is running. But we'll show the demo of that in just a little bit. The one thing I need to do in Elasticsearch before getting this all going is all the pre-processing stuff. So maybe tell it use that pipeline, and then I want to use semantic text. And here it'll do all the chunking, it'll do all the vectorization for me, because Elasticsearch, here I'm running in serverless, it has access to the Elastic Inference Service. So I can just go tell it, hey, this is the embedding that I want to use, and it'll just do it through my my cloud account there. So all that's taken care of, and that we'll share the gist for the little app script that's there. But after that, the one step in scripts is just to go hit the run button on the poll function, and it should just start itself into a loop until it can't find any more emails that match that label. So with that done, a couple thousand emails loaded up, let's jump into Agent Builder and see what we have. So first, I'm going to start here in DevTools in my serverless account. And if I just run a cat indices on demo star, you see I've actually loaded quite a few indices here. I've got my weekly reports. That's like real data. I can't show you guys that stuff. It has too many customer names in it. I've got a redacted version of that because I was testing, maybe if I redact all the information, we'll make a good demo. Looking at a bunch of redacted information, I think we all understand is not a very good demo. So we're not going to do that. We're going to do my personal junk email and maybe that TripIt one because I had to pre-process that one a little bit. So if I run a search on TripIt, right, and say, hey, give me the from field, the subject field, and the enrich location field. You see that enrich location worked, right? I'm pulling out Barcelona, Las Vegas, Boston, all that fun stuff. But hey, where are the vectors, right? If I added in the message body content, the vectors wouldn't be there. If I wanted to see the vectors, I just need to remember to say the vectors are now with the new semantic text in the newer versions of Elasticsearch are in this kind of hidden field here, underscore inference fields. And here you'll see it's already done all of the chunking. And here's my Jina v4 vector in there with like good multilingual embeddings there off of whatever was it found in the message body. So that's all done. Data's loaded. I didn't have to run any outside services in order to do that. Just kind of all happened in Elasticsearch, calling to the Elastic Inference field. So from there, I know how to work with Elasticsearch. I can run a query real easily, right, and say, hey, do a semantic search in ESQL for looking for video games in the message body. Tell me the ID and the subject. See what did it get? Thank you for your Steam purchase. Yeah, cool. So it probably worked, right? And when I'm working with Agent Builder, just in case people are wondering, there are APIs for all of Agent Builder, right? So I can, in DevTools here, if I go kbn:/, that's a command to go, hey, hit Kibana instead of hitting Elasticsearch with that REST call. And so I can go list the agents, I can go list my tools, I can maybe go list the setup for a specific tool. So if you see people in the videos that we've shown here, interviewing the people who are the winners of internal hackathons, and they're using the UI, if you want to DevOps this and go and have Git actions, push changes to things, totally doable within within the API set. All right, so Agent Builder. Let's start, instead of starting with like a pre-made agent, let's use the out-of-the-box stuff. So out of the box, I've got two versions of Claude registered here in my inference APIs. Let's use the older one, and I'm going to ask a question. Let's ask it, hey, I just loaded up the demo Tripit index. So I'm going to tell it which one to use in text. Have I ever traveled to Mexico? So I haven't configured Agent Builder at all, right? This is just the out of the box stuff. So out of the box, it's going and making a bunch of decisions, and it's deciding I'm going to use the core search tool that's in there. And it's going to search, well, I told it what index to search verbally right here. So it's going to do that, and it's going to go look at some documents. It's using all these built-in tools that are in Agent Builder already. And it says, yeah, you were there in January 2023 and January 2025. You've been there twice in the last however long I got data in here for. So I didn't have to write any tools. It's just using the built-in stuff to query all of my indices in Elasticsearch. Maybe I don't want it to have access to all of the indices. Maybe I have too many indices and their names aren't very descriptive. How would I clue it in so I don't have to do this every time? Well, for that, what I would do is I would go create a custom agent and register a tool to it. Let's just go make a new tool. And I would make a new tool that's an index search tool. And I can just give it an index pattern here saying like demo-tripit, right? Hey, match an index pattern. I can go give a description of it saying, this is where my travel data is. So I'm not writing any queries here. It's still going to use the LLM to go write the query. It's going to go inspect the index and look at its meta, kind of do like a table describe on it, but the Elasticsearch equivalent of that. It's going to go figure all of that out. But you would make different tools for different purposes. If you want to narrow down what I want my agent to have access to, obviously this is running as me. So if I configured role-based access control, it would also only have access to the things that I have access to if it was a multi-user system. So going back to agents, just leave the page. Let's go run some other questions. So still using the default agent here. Let me ask another question. Using an aggregation on the same index, actually, let me pull up the old conversation. Let's continue this conversation. Using an aggregation on the same index, draw a diagram of my most frequent travel destinations. An aggregation, right? It can't just run a search for that. It has to do an actual aggregation. It has to do a group by on the destination field. So it's going to look through the data and it's going to figure out how to do that. And it's going to decide, well, I guess I have to generate an ESQL for you because you didn't tell me what to do. So here it nailed it, right? Perfect ESQL for this is how we do a group by in ESQL. And I can even punch up, oh, look, it drew me a diagram. Very, very nice. Looks like I went to New York the most. Cool. So if I say found 63 results, I could click on them and it'll actually punch it over into the Discover, and I can continue to run it here. If you're not seeing results, it might be because the time filter here is too tight. So let's go from 15 minutes ago to 15 years ago. Aha, and there's my data, right? So a lot of the stuff I'm going to do to really narrow in and tune my searches that I want my agent builder to do is all going to be about kind of tuning these queries. So let's, here's stats count. That's cool. Well, that's like all cities in the world. Let's say, we're from demo Tripit. Let's add a where clause to it, right? So if I do a where filter, right, it's going to autocomplete for me. Enrich location dot keyword like. Let's do star comma space CA, right? Because it's all these things are like city name or city name comma state name. So let's find all the places I've been in California by just adding that pipe statement there. Let's run that. LA, San Francisco, Mountain View, San Diego, Sunnyvale, right? So it's ESQL. You start playing with it. You want to learn it. All the help for ESQL is kind of built into Kibana right here, though it's also on our website. Good stuff. Let's do a more complex search. Let's do some real like hybrid search in here. So I'm going to copy and paste over here. But here's a more complex one. Copy, paste. Here's a more complex one. I'm saying, let's go look at that concert information. So Spotify is where I want it to come from. The subject should be personalized concert recommendations, timestamps, before and after timestamps. And then here, this fork command means at the same time, run a semantic search for metal concerts, right? And then also run a keyword search for metal concerts. Fuse those two search lists and then get me them in search relevance order. So let's run that one. We're going to get back is, let's see, Glory Hammer. That's a speed metal band. That sounds pretty good, right? That's okay. It's sort of really nerdy music, but what do you do? All right. So that's how I do a hybrid search. So I could write this into one of my tools. And let's do one more kind of power trick I wanted to show people that as you're building stuff in Agent Builder, you might want to see. So I'm going to copy another query here. Here's a more complex one. What I found is when I was going through my OpenAI like receipts, like there's no structured data in there. Just somewhere in there it says how many tokens I spent and how much money I spent. And the format of the email changes over time. So I could probably pre-process this, but if I'm at the point where I've already loaded my data, it's pretty easy to just post-process it. So if I get down to the right emails, I can go and say, hey, let's make a prompt right here in the query. For each row of the result, I could say, the following is an email from a service provider. You know, how much money did I spend? Put it in a new field, and now I could do a group by on that. So if I do this, now with this completion command in the SQL, I'm actually going to go generate a histogram of how much money I've spent. So you can see in 2024 and 2025, I spent a good amount of money, and then I probably switched to Claude and Gemini for some of my personal projects, and the money falls off, right? So it's like kind of the history of when I was spending a lot of money on OpenAI. Good stuff, and only like $60 a month, so not that bad, right? So this is ESQL. Let's turn this into agents. So I'm going to switch over back into Agent Builder. And instead of using the Elastic AI agent, I'm going to go and say, hey, show me all the agents. And I could hit new agent here. I've already started one right here, email agent. So let's edit the email agent. And this is where I give it instructions. You're the user's personal assistant. You have access to all these specific things, right? Great. But that's the most important part here is what tools I give it access to. So the only tool I've given it access to is email travel destinations. So let's punch open our tools. Let's go to email travel destinations. And here's my aggregation, right? My count by locations. And I've told it, hey, all of these filters, right? Here's how to use those filters. The LLM is going to see, oh, you want the date in ISO format. It needs to be a date. It's going to learn how to do all of that. And I've told it, hey, if the user doesn't specify a date, just use, the year 2000, the year 2099, right? So that everything still works. So if I run a question with only that tool registered, so I'm going to go to Agent Builder. I'm going to switch my agent to the email agent that we were just looking at. And say, what were my most frequent travel destinations in 2019? It's going to go analyze the request. And then it's going to say, well, I want to use that one tool you gave me access to that looks perfect. And it punches out 8 results and then formats my answer. Awesome. Let's keep going. So let's go to my agents and let's go to tools and let's create a new tool. And this is where I would call out to workflow or call out to my own MCP if I had that hosted somewhere and wanted to do something special. But I could also type in my ESQL here. So I could create a new tool. Let me paste in that hybrid search. But for the hybrid search, instead of having the string metal, because I'm searching for metal music, right? I would have $query, $time after, $time before. Now I hit the infer parameters button. And this is where I would type in, hey, here's how you use these various fields. Here's extra instructions you need. The prompt engineering of a tool, pretty similar to a lot of other frameworks, right? So that's how that would work. So instead of like risking demo gods by me having a typo here and having to do it live in front of you, I'm just going to go back to my agent. I'm going to go to my email agent and I'm going to go to the tools and I'm going to go to a whole bunch of tools that I pre-cooked. One for the video games, one for actually searching on the travel rather than doing an aggregation on it, one for my music concerts, and one for my OpenAI account funding that does that completion call. And I'm going to hit save. And now let's play with the agent with all of these things active at the same time, right? So I'm going to go to the email agent. I'm going to chat with it. Let's chat with it a bit. So I'm going to say, hey, when was the last time the Buena Vista Social Club came to my area to play a concert? If you don't know, they're this amazing Cuban band that does not come to the United States very often. So I ask this question, it's going to go consult the tools. It's going to say, well, I better run an email music concert search. And let's see what it gets. Hey, look, it's using my tool. It's using a bunch of ESQL. It's using another tool saying, hey, maybe somewhere else it's got it. Maybe it wants to run it a couple of times. Fun stuff. And it says, yeah, October 24th in Annapolis. Awesome. Was I traveling that month? Why didn't I go? Well, it knows from the conversation when I'm talking about. It knows that travel has a couple of tools related to travel. So I'll go do all this, right? So you can imagine, hey, this is neat. I could set up this agent, and then I could talk to this agent in a workflow. I could talk to this agent using the API commands to Kibana. I could talk to this agent using the A2A protocol. So yeah, you were a bunch of places around then, but I was in St. Louis, Missouri, but not on October 24th, and more like October 1st. So it looks like it was pretty clear then. All right. There's another question. What video games were on sale back then? All right. So this is really basic stuff, just kind of taking my unstructured data and turning it into more domain-oriented information so that the LLM can really efficiently do this. At this point, the LLM isn't really writing any ESQLs anymore, because maybe the things that I use this agent for are pretty repetitive, and I want to reduce the amount of tokens and reasoning and things that it has to figure out on its own, especially if this is going to get put into an automation. All right, so what video games are on sale back then? It's querying Steam. It goes, oh, a bunch of stuff. All right, well, let me ask another one. Just type in here. I really want to play this Mass Effect game. Does it go on sale often? Maybe recently? Let's see what happens, right? I'm asking for, kind of something that looks more like a full text search. The date range is kind of inspecific. I said often, recently. Let's just see what it does. It has a lot of tools to pull from. So here it looks like, hey, in the last month, it's looking for Mass Effect Legendary Edition in the Steam tool, right? In the video game tool. It's got 5 results. Good news. Oh, a bunch of stuff, right? It's comparing the different discounts between 85 and 80%. Doesn't look like it's on sale right now. It appears as a gift from my friend. Oh, my buddy gave it to me as a gift on January 17th last year. Maybe I should, take that off my wish list then. All right. So you're getting the idea here that inspecting your data, querying it, all that, pretty interesting. Last thought, if I wanted to say, hey, remind me, that I should be doing something as a result of this, or I want an AI to remind me, maybe what I could do is I could go to the agent, I can make a new tool. In the new tool, maybe I could go, let's actually switch spaces. I've got workflows working somewhere else here. So I can go to agents, I could go to view all tools, create a new tool. And if I made a workflow here, all the workflows that I have registered in workflows would show up here. So let me pop open the workflows tool. So I create a new workflow. I made an echo reminder here, just like a placeholder for putting something in a log. But if I wanted to call out to another tool, call out to another MCP, this would be the good hook for it. So I hope that gets everybody the idea that you invest a little bit of time in your data, you invest a little bit of time in ESQL, and then suddenly I'm just chatting with my data. I can do it with the tools that are straight out of the box. Pretty easy, does a pretty good job. It actually writes better ESQL than I do. Or I can say, hey, looking at that ESQL, I think I'm going to do that a lot. Maybe I'm going to turn that into a tool so that I can save a lot of tokens and I can expose it to a lot of people, and it'll just become an expert in my data. So with that, I'll hand it back off to George. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that kind of grounded everybody in, what I could do with this on an unstructured data source. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Dave. Thank you. That was a perfect live proof point. What you just saw was Dave turn junk email into gold, right? So that was in data was in Elasticsearch. Then you showed creating queries that the agent will be using, and then created an agent. And then, of course, showed the workflow of acting on that data too. And of course, if we had more time, we'd love to see that. So this is all what teams have been missing. A practical way to build agents that are grounded in context or data and can take action safely. So if you're watching and thinking, I could do that, well, that's the goal. You start small, one data set, one tool, one workflow, one clear outcome, and you'll be shocked on how fast it really comes together. All right, so let's do a giveaway before our last major announcement. We're going to pick a winner and announce it live, so this should be fun. So the winner is Prasenjit Saha 4310. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. And congratulations. We'll reach out and collect information from you to get your Apple AirPods. And just one more time, Prasenjit Saha 4310. There's also an exclamation point on the end of that. So anyway, so you've seen what's possible. Context-driven answers, custom tools with ESQL, and a predictable action with workflows built fast. And we want to see what you can build. So we're launching an external hackathon. Join the Elastic Agent Builder Hackathon, January 22nd, today, through February 27th, 2026. So you could build context-driven, multi-step AI agents that combine search, tools, and reasoning to automate a real-world workflows. So $20,000 in prizes. You could collaborate with Elastic engineers and get featured on our blog and social channels. So you can register now at elasticsearch.devpost.com. So before we conclude, I want to say thanks to all my guests. Anish Yugo Sanguri, he was the one that did the UFO demo for the awesome demo. Rashank, Amanda, Jeff, Olivia, and Dave. That was a great demo. So what's next? Well, try Agent Builder in Elastic Cloud Serverless. Start with your own data. Build a small agent this week. A single workflow, a single tool, one clear outcome. Join the hackathon and submit what you built. If you found this useful, be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next live stream where we'll announce the top submissions and the winners. So I hope you had fun. I know I did. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.